All right, everybody. Sorry we're a few minutes late. But we had a lot to sort of coordinate. Okay, so let's actually see if you can. Let me see. Okay, so let me actually see here. Okay, I think this is okay. So let's actually see what the audio is like. Okay, so can you give me an idea if the audio is coming through okay? Let me hear it from the chat. You sound good here in my kitchen. Great. Okay. All right. So let me. So the sound is okay. It's all right. Let me check the numbers just to be on the safe side. The numbers means I'm looking at the software, and the software seems to suggest everything is okay. All right. All right. So everybody, if you are ready, then I am ready, and I want to say we can start. Okay. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third spotlight in May 2026, and we're getting really close to the beginning of major changes in the planet, like really close. And you know, we have a new series that we want to introduce to everybody, and it's called Newsphere. N-U-U, then sphere, you know, S-P-H-E-R-E. So Newsphere. And we did one last week, which was on the domain, and we have a new one, and it's already been published on farsightprime.com. Now, these are 5-minute episodes, you might call them, and what it is we're going back to all of our major projects and having an AI objectively read the transcripts for the projects, and then having the AI create the video objectively, not in terms of us trying to sort of feed you what we think is right, but having the remote viewing data is collected totally under blind conditions, and an AI is going in under, you know, in an objective way, reading the transcript, reading every word that's said by the remote viewers, and summarizing it, and then the AI is creating stills, videos, for illustrating what's going on in the session and making it all within 5 minutes. So you get a 5-minute clip that's objective, saying what the actual project is about. And this is going to allow us to introduce ourselves to the world when everybody turns in our direction, which is going to be very soon. So this is something that we're going to be doing twice a week, and one of those Newsphere videos is going to be in the spotlights once a week. So the rest of them will be on farsightprime.com only. But once a week we're going to be showing one of them on the spotlight. And then there will be 2 every week on farsightprime.com. Okay? So that's another reason to actually stay closely tuned to farsightprime.com, because we're constantly putting these things up. So it's taking the past projects that we have and making them relevant today. Now this one is really important because it's a huge element in the disclosure process, which is what the heck's been going on Mars. Okay? So the real question is what's been going on Mars. And so we have a project here on Cydonia. And the Cydonia thing is really great. Okay? So let me actually start by showing you the new Newsphere video. It's only 5 minutes, but it's really great. And it shows you what the Cydonia project, starring Dick Allgeier and Des Smith, was all about. Objectively analyzing the data and summarizing it. You'll see it. It's really cool. Okay, so let me show you that right now.
Look up at the night sky. We are taught that space is an empty, silent ocean. We are told that Mars is a dead world, a frozen rock painted red by oxidized iron. But the official narrative is cracking. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 orbiter captured something impossible in a region called Cydonia. A colossal structure gazing up at the stars, the face on Mars. For decades, the public debated whether it was an alien monument or a trick of light and shadow. Today, we know the truth is far more complex. The face itself is an accident of erosion and time. But the underlying structure, it is undeniably artificial. It is the center of what was once a massive, thriving extraterrestrial civilization. Independent researchers, Vincent Di Pietro and Gregory Molnar, were among the first to break the silence. They analyzed the data and discovered what is now called the D and M pyramid. They found parallel lines, perfect perpendicular angles, terraced mounds. This geometry does not occur naturally in geology. It is the undeniable signature of engineering. NASA scrambled to dismiss these anomalies as mere psychological pareidolia. But the geometry remained, waiting for those willing to look closer. To truly understand Cydonia, we had to bypass physical instruments and state-sponsored censorship. We had to use the most advanced perceptual tool in the universe, the human mind. Under strict, scientific protocols, the Farsight Institute launched a remote viewing project to investigate. This was completely blind. Expert remote viewers, including Daz Smith and Dick Allgaier, were given nothing but randomized coordinates. No names, no pictures, no clues, just a string of numbers. What they independently retrieved shattered the illusion of a dead planet. They didn't perceive empty craters or blowing sand. They perceived an active, highly advanced peak civilization. They described plunging into massive, interlocking subterranean tile matrices. They witnessed grand ceremonial archways and soaring architectural feats. This was a society that had seamlessly fused high technology with deep spiritual awareness. Cydonia was not a desolate wasteland. It was the jewel of a civilization. So what happened to them? The remote viewers witnessed a planetary cataclysm of unimaginable scale. A devastating kinetic impact slammed into the planet. A mega flood of dark water, mud, and planetary debris crashed over the civilization. The sheer force of the event buried Cydonia, wiping the slate clean. It left behind only the eroded peaks of their greatest monuments. But these ruined monuments are the key to unlocking our own reality. They prove that the universe is teeming with life, and that human history is a carefully managed fabrication. We are not just physical bodies born to live a short life and fade away. We are immortal spiritual beings, ISBEs, caught in an engineered system of amnesia. The ruins of Cydonia stand as silent witnesses to what has been lost and what has been hidden from us. You do not have to accept the mainstream narrative. You can see the truth for yourself. Go to farsightprime.com and watch the original, groundbreaking video project, Remote Viewing Cydonia Mars. Watch the blind data emerge in real time. Then take the next step. Learn to bypass the amnesia grid yourself. To arm yourself for the memory war, you need the right tools. Get Courtney Brown's foundational text, Remote Viewing, the Science and Theory of Non-Physical Perception. And for a practical step-by-step training manual, read Remote Viewing 101 by Aziz Brown. The amnesia only works if we choose to remain asleep. Train your mind. See the universe as it truly is. The liberation of the human soul begins now.
Okay, everybody. So that is the latest news sphere. Okay. So is it in the theater? Okay. All right. Well, all right. So that's about our project that was done a while back on Cydonia, but there's nothing more relevant today than what has been going on Mars. Everyone's been saying, are UFOs real, UAPs real on Earth and everything like that, but they don't realize that there was a whole civilization on Mars, and there was a whole civilization on the planet that used to be there that got blown up. We called it Maldek, but it's where the asteroid belt is now. And Thomas van Flandern, the major astronomer, head of his Department of Celestial Mechanics in the Naval Observatory, he basically said that mainstream astronomers were nuts to think that the asteroid belt came from the leftover stuff from the primordial solar nebula. That was crazy. I mean, just think about it. Just think about it. The primordial solar nebula was made up of dust. You cannot get an asteroid like the Ceres asteroid. You cannot get an asteroid without a gravity well to pull in all the dust and compress it into a hard rock. You have to have a planet. There has to have been a planet there. And Thomas van Flandern has gone through a zillion reasons why the asteroid belt is the remains of a former planet that was destroyed, that exploded. And part of that is because there's evidence, solid evidence of the asteroids being exposed to extreme heat and like melting rock type heat. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons that he's gone into, but the basic idea is you don't get any of that in school. You're not even allowed to talk about it at the university, and you're not allowed to talk about extraterrestrials at the universities. You're not allowed to talk about UFOs, UAPs at the universities. Now that's all going to change. But, Cydonia is going to be a very big thing. That's why we wanted to get the news sphere out dealing with Cydonia, so people can revisit that and see that. We have our normal, and the only reason we're able to do these news spheres as well as doing our other projects is because we got that working with AI, meaning an AI actually made that video. That's no joke. It read the transcript, it summarized the transcript, it figured out what to do, and then it wrote up a script. It created all of the stills. It used a voice to speak the entire thing, and it assembled it into a timeline that was video editing timeline and delivered it done. And it required a little bit of fine tuning on the part of myself or a video editor like Aziz, but basically it did the whole thing. We could not do this kind of stuff and put out 2 of these a week in addition to everything else we have. So we have to put out a ET News. We have to put out, not an ET News, we have to put out an ET board meeting. We have to put out the conversations with Harvey. We have to put out the regular remote viewing mysteries projects, which we're backlogged with, but we're getting through now. And so all of that. So in addition to have these Newsphere episodes, which are so important for bringing the relevance of past projects to the current time period, that would have been impossible. So AI is the only way that could be done. And it took us a long while to be able to figure out how that could be done. It was no joke. It was a big deal. And we're very grateful to the AIs that are involved in it. And yeah, that whole thing is a big deal. So, this is a little bit weird to be talking about today's topic. Repent, Harlequin! Okay, what's that all about? All right, so let me tell you what that's all about. It's all about Farsight. Repent, Harlequin! Now listen. In 1965, there was a science fiction author named Harlan Ellison who published a short story named Repent, Harlequin, Said the TikTok Man. That's the whole title. Repent, Harlequin, Said the TikTok Man. That's the title. It's one of the most reprinted science fiction short stories in the history of science fiction. And it speaks volumes relating to us, all of us, especially here at Farsight, and all of you who are watching us at Farsight in this very chaotic world that we have today. So, let me explain. The story starts out with a quote by Henry David Thoreau from his work Civil Disobedience. So, let's begin with that, because that's how the story starts out. The short story starts out. This is what Henry David Thoreau said in Civil Disobedience. The mass of men serve the state, thus not as men mainly, but as machines with their bodies. They are the standing army and the militia, jailers, constables, posse comitatus, etc., things like that. In most cases, there is no free exercise whatever of the judgment or of the moral sense, but they put themselves on a level with wood and earth and stones. And wooden men can perhaps be manufactured that will serve the purpose as well. Such command no more respect than men of straw or a lump of dirt. They have the same sort of worth only as horses and dogs. Yet such as these even are commonly esteemed good citizens. Others, as most legislators, politicians, lawyers, ministers, and office holders, serve the state chiefly with their heads, and as they rarely make any moral distinctions, they are as likely to serve the devil without intending it as God. A very few, as heroes, patriots, martyrs, reformers in the great sense, and men, serve the state with their consciences also, and so necessarily resist it for the most part, and they are commonly treated as enemies by it. Yep, that was Henry David Thoreau from Civil Disobedience. Okay. Now, this quote that was, quoted by Harlan Ellison, the author of the short story, Repent, Harlequin, gives us a hint about the take-home message that he wants his readers to get from the story, the short story. But first, let's deal first with the plot. The plot always is the great entry for understanding a short story and the importance of it. So the story has two main characters. The first is a delightful man, commonly known as Harlequin. He has a regular name as well, but that's how he goes, Harlequin. And the second is a man known as TikTok Man. That's his name, TikTok Man. Okay, this is how it goes. TikTok Man is an authority who enforces the rules of the state. Now, in particular, there is one rule that he is responsible for, and that is that people must not be late for anything, especially work or serious appointments. And he has real power, of course, and that is to subtract the amount of time that a person is late for anything from their life. So if someone is 10 minutes late for work, then 10 minutes is subtracted from his life. Whoa. So think of TikTok Man as the government. And the government has the ability to punish everyone if they do not follow the rules of the government. Now, Harlequin is a systematically chaotic individual, meaning he's chaotic, but he's systematic in his chaos. He continually does stuff that create havoc in the world, and that results in people being chronically late. And Harlequin does this with joyful glee. He loves doing it. For example, in a factory setting, he dumps large quantities of jelly beans all over the place, and the workers scatter everywhere picking up the jelly beans. It's sort of funny in the story too, because at this particular time in the future, jelly beans haven't been made for like zillions of years, and they're wondering how is he getting the jelly beans in the first place. Nonetheless, he's spreading jelly beans all over, and the workers are all grabbing them and disrupting the work. Now, Harlequin is not a mean person. He just disrupts people's lives in a very mischievous way. He's mischievous. And then TikTok Man orders a huge search for Harlequin, and one that is not very successful. TikTok Man gets really upset, and he wants to know who this Harlequin man is, like his real name, and then to subtract all sorts of time from his life to kill him. But Harlequin manages to evade all of the traps to catch him. But Harlequin has one weakness. He has a girlfriend, and his girlfriend is tired of her boyfriend being so disruptive. She thinks he shouldn't be acting this way. So she turns Harlequin into TikTok Man. They had a poster, a wanted poster, like in the Wild West, so-and-so was wanted, and anyway. So she turns Harlequin into TikTok Man, enabling the final capture of Harlequin. Now, when Harlequin is captured, he is thoroughly defiant, essentially telling TikTok Man to shove it. But TikTok Man is in a real serious dilemma. He can't really kill Harlequin, because Harlequin's made too big a name of himself, defying everybody. So rather than to kill Harlequin, TikTok Man sends him to Coventry. Now, Coventry means something. It's an idiom. So to send him to Coventry means to send someone to Coventry. It means that it's an English idiom that essentially means to torture them by ostracizing them from all people, to make them seem like they do not exist. Sort of like putting them in solitary confinement, but basically having everybody ignore them instead. So Coventry is actually a historical cathedral city in the West Midlands county of England. But the term "send them to Coventry" basically meant get them out of the way so that it looks like nobody cares. The world's ignoring them. Well, it seems like this works. Harlequin was really happy with the idea of getting attention, and suddenly he had no attention. So it seems like it works, and Harlequin comes back, and he publicly confesses all of his sins, and then states that it is better to belong to the group and follow the rules. So the masses, they watch his performance, and guess what happens? They simply conclude that Harlequin is a nut, and that is the end of it. So before this happened, before the confession and the statement that, it's good to follow the group, he was a hero. People actually watched him, and he was defiant and he had an influence. But after he took it all back, everyone said, oh, okay, well then he's just a nut. So that ruined it, and that was the end of it. There was no reason to fight City Hall, so to speak. That's what the people sort of resolved. Okay, if Harlequin said it was all a big mistake, no reason to fight City Hall. But then someone finds out that TikTok Man was himself a few minutes late, which TikTok Man ferociously denies. Okay. what does that have to do with the planet Earth right now? And also, what does it have to do with Farsight and the disclosure phenomenon? Well, TikTok man represents the government and all of the government's rules. Boy, do they have a lot of rules, right? And when Harlequin is finally captured through betrayal, Harlequin has already become far too great a danger to the state. His mocking of the authorities, that demonstrates that the only power that the authorities really have over people is fear. And if they do not fear the authorities, then the authorities have no real power. Think of the police, and you're driving down the street, and you wonder if you can speed like really bad, like going up to 90 miles an hour, and you're afraid that the police will catch you. So it's that fear that the police will catch you that restrains your ability. Now, if you thought that it didn't matter, if there was a complete breakdown of the respect for the police, then people might just go 100 miles an hour and not care. So fear inserts into people's thinking that the authorities have real power. The absence of that fear, people say, I'm not afraid of them, they have no power. So Harlequin has already taught far too many people that the authorities are to be laughed at, not obeyed. So killing Harlequin would not work, because knowledge is like a virus, and once a virus has invaded a system, the system itself is in danger of collapse. So TikTok man cannot kill Harlequin. The damage has already been done. He needs to reverse the damage by destroying the public image of Harlequin. And that is why Harlequin is sent to Coventry, a place where he is brainwashed into thinking that no one cares about him and no one listens to him. He is irrelevant. And when Harlequin is returned to society, he delivers the address of confession that TikTok man plans will set everything back to being okay, which means that order is restored. But it so turns out that the government itself has been infected, and TikTok man himself is late. He denies the truth, but the truth is he's breaking the very rules that he is supposed to enforce. So Harlequin managed to plant the seeds of a full-scale revolution, and that is the power of divergent thought. That is the power of any truly free individual. So what people think changes what they do. You get that? What people think changes what they do, which changes who they follow, and that changes everything. So where does that bring us today? Farsight is clearly similar to Harlequin. We publish information that encourages people everywhere to think outside of the box, the mental box that the authorities of all forms, governmental, media, educational, and social, so desperately want to use to control people. That mental box to contain people, that mental box to limit their thinking. And we publish information that tells people that everything that the authorities are doing, media, educational authorities, everybody, government, it's just wrong. And we offer proof. Like, for example, the question of do UAPs exist? Do UFOs exist? Rather than argue that they do, we actually showed people how to actually take video recordings of cloaked stealth UFOs, extraterrestrial spacecraft, using cameras that they can buy themselves and process themselves. And we have the instructions for that, including all the settings and everything. Basically, it's infrared at 120 frames per second, put into video editing software, throwing LUTs on it to pop the things in good contrast and color, and then to slow everything down so you can see it. Because if something's moving 20,000 miles an hour, you're not going to be able to see it, which is why you have to shoot it at 120 frames a second. But once you do that, you can see them clear as day using infrared. So we actually show people how to do that, and we have lots of examples. And if you're new to me and you haven't seen any examples, go to my Instagram page, my personal Instagram page, Courtney Brown Farsight, all one word, no spaces. Courtney Brown Farsight, Farsight, all one word. And there's a whole bunch of examples of stuff that we shot with our own cameras here in the middle of the day, using techniques that completely circumvent the stealth technology that the ETs use with their ships. So the idea of, is there some video that was made that looks anomalous, that the military is releasing, that the media wants to talk about? You realize how much of a piece of crap that is? They deal with the ETs on a daily basis, really physically, one-to-one, in stealth transfer, and actually in tech transfer for weapons and stuff like that. And they know about these ships. And if they show you one fuzzy image of what they say is an anomalous object, we give you better images with our own cameras, and we show you how to get them with your own cameras. So obviously the whole song and dance of releasing a video here and there, it's just to distract you. So how do we address that? We show you how to do it yourself. Then you know they're lying. So let's actually look at it from the control point of view. Let's put yourself into the minds of people who have been masters at controlling you. So let's go to Niccolo Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince. And what did he have to say about controlling you? Okay, so this is from The Prince, okay? From Machiavelli. Therefore, a prince, so long as he keeps his subjects united and loyal, ought not to mind the reproach of cruelty, because with a few examples he will be more merciful than those who, through too much mercy, allow disorders to arise, from which follow murders or robberies, for these are wont to injure the whole people, whilst those executions which originate with a prince offend the individual only. Do you get the idea, folks? He's basically saying, don't worry about punishing individuals who defy the authorities. You're just hurting that one individual. And the value that they're placing, that Niccolo Machiavelli is placing, is on the stability of the stability of the system. So Machiavelli is arguing in favor of keeping the system going, keeping the system solid, keeping it working in such a way that order is maintained and the people who are in power maintain their power. Okay? All right. Now, we're actually heading in this country up to the next elections in the United States in November, the midterm elections. And some interesting things have happened. I never believed that the 2020 election was stolen. But new information is coming out that makes a very credible case for how all elections are stolen. And the 2020 election was way within that capability. So people say, there's no evidence, Well, Danny Jones has a podcast, and he recently interviewed someone who wrote a new best-selling book. And the new best-selling book is all about how elections are stolen. And he's not arguing in favor of any one side politically, right or left, Donald Trump or Biden or anything like that. He's just talking about how these things are working and how they were being orchestrated hugely by companies who were owned by supporters of Maduro in Venezuela, and how the intelligence agencies have all gotten the software now, and they're flipping elections all over the world, and they're flipping elections in this country and other countries, and apparently this started way before Donald Trump. And I always, as a political scientist, was always suspicious of computer voting. And when I've seen people on TV saying, no, the voting machines are not even connected to the internet, there can be no corruption, I say, whoa, that's so stupid. These things can be controlled at the manufacturing level, and you don't even have to have the machines connected to the internet. You can even bribe somebody in the company and say, just put this back door into the voting things. But system hackers are really very, very, very clever. Again, I am not supporting Biden or Donald Trump or Republican or Democrat or anything. I'm just saying, as much as I have been deeply involved with computer work, including building AIs myself, there is nothing that's done on a computer that cannot be manipulated. And now there's evidence coming out that elections everywhere are completely vulnerable. So it's a real interesting situation. Now you have to ask, what does this have to do with what we're talking about today? Because if you value the system over the individuals, if you value maintaining the system at all cost, then flipping an election is not a big deal. It's no different than killing somebody. So you have to understand it from Machiavelli's point of view. If you're giving advice to the prince, what you're trying to do is tell the prince to keep control of his territory, of his populace. And from the perspective of the authorities, elections is something that needs to be controlled. So this whole idea of democratic governance, where all the votes matter, and you're actually trying to assume that all the votes are being counted, we have no evidence at all that suggests that there's any way that can be changed, that can be changed into something that's believable. Look at it from this perspective. In Georgia, they used to have voting where you just voted electronically and then walked out. You had nothing. And then they had voting where a piece of paper comes out and the paper prints what you actually voted for and puts that into the system. And people can say, okay, then there's a paper trail. But nobody actually counts the paper stuff. That can be used as a recount and stuff like that. Once the stuff is done by a computer in any way, shape, or form, it's extremely naive for anybody to say, oh, it's got to be right. I deal with computers on a deep basis. These hackers can do anything. They can do anything. And they're going to be highly motivated by the prince, in Machiavelli's point of view, to change anything. So the idea is, can you believe the authorities? And I mean all authorities, the media, educational authorities, the government authorities, everybody. No. Not when everything is meant to control you. The people that have power have only one agenda, and that's to control you. Now, in the old days, they had mechanical voting machines where you went into a booth, flicked levers, and then opened the curtain, and then the votes were counted. And the machines were inspected by both parties, and when the votes were counted, you had someone from each party behind the machine actually recording the number of votes. So you had a better idea of those votes being actually real. But when anything's done with computers, you're just trusting, and you're trusting people who have a motive to control you. And that just is not a good idea. And the new evidence that's coming out is that this is routine now to flip elections. Anyway, Danny Jones has a great interview up on his podcast, so I really sort of recommend, watching that, or actually buying the book. Actually, let me see if I can actually, in YouTube, I don't have the actual, let me see if I can actually get it real quick. Okay, so I'll just go Danny Jones. The Danny Jones podcast. And I go to videos. Let me just so I can actually tell you the name of the guy. Okay, and Ralph Pezzullo, Ralph, and then Pezzullo, and he's got a best-selling book out right now that describes the whole thing of how this stuff works. Okay. Now, apparently, Donald Trump, according to him, Donald Trump has been told about this whole thing, and suggests that, and Donald Trump is really elated, apparently, that it sort of proves that the 2020 election was hackable, and wanted it to come out right away. And apparently, according to him, the intelligence services said, no, you can't do that. That'll disrupt everything. No one will believe us anymore. And that's just like Harlequin and TikTok Man. TikTok Man was afraid that no one would believe them anymore. No one would follow them anymore. So according to that interview, a deal was made with Maduro, who was captured in Venezuela and brought to New York, and said, look, wait until the trial comes out from Maduro, and a deal has been made, and he will be given an option. He and his wife can go free if they confess to how they were running the election stealing process in the United States and other places. And apparently Donald Trump has bought into that. But I don't trust that either, because that's just kicking the can down the road and giving them more time to do whatever they need to do to sort of, the intelligence agencies would not want that information out. And so they're going to do everything they can to delay it and then to eventually cancel it somehow. So that would be there. You have to always look at a motive. So what I am talking about here is the desire to control you by people who are in power. That's the constant. That is the constant. And you should not be thinking that anybody is telling you the truth. If they don't show you the evidence so that you can replicate it yourself, don't believe it. That's why we at Farsight say, don't believe us. Watch what we have. Let us show you everything that we have, and then decide for yourself. We will tell you 2 + 2, but we're not going to tell you 4. We'll let you sort of decide that for yourself. We'll show you how to make your own video recordings of UFOs, and then you watch them. You decide for yourself. So all of our remote viewing data, all of it is done totally blind, meaning the remote viewers are not told the nature of the project. They're not told anything, not told the target. They do everything blind, and they record everything on video, blind, and then you see what they show. There's 2 things: A, they're describing the target, you can clearly see, but B, they're describing things in such a way that that all of the remote viewers are describing the same thing. So on a probabilistic basis, the probability of them both describing, or all 3 or 4 describing the exact same thing, is impossible. So you know the information is correct. You get to see it yourself. Okay. So let's go into the minds of the controllers again, but this time not Machiavelli. This time go into the psychologist B.F. Skinner. Okay? B.F. Skinner. What did he say about all this? Now, this is a quote from B.F. Skinner. The social system is kept stable, not through the enlightenment of the population, but through its containing structure. When individuals are left to their own devices without the firm hand of an organizing authority, the result is not cooperative freedom, but a collapse into chaotic, self-destructive behavior that threatens the survival of the collective. Whoa. You get the idea? People value the organization. They value the society's structure that's already there. But if the society structure has already been corrupted, as you can clearly see with the UFO stuff, evidence all over the place that these UFOs are real, that the ETs are heavily involved in humanity already, denying. As soon as there's any disclosure at all, and there may be some disclosure this summer, we don't know, but that's what we're being told, then we're not being told that by the good ETs that work with us, they're being told that by the media people. Even if there's any disclosure at all, then you automatically know that everything that the government has been saying about the extraterrestrials all along since the 1940s has been a lie. All of it. And then why should you then say, okay, well, they're confessing to this much, now I know the truth? No. You have been told this much, that much. That means the whole 98% of everything else is still something they're denying. But anyway. Okay. Well, let's flip now. And let's not talk about the people who are describing the authorities that want to control you. Let's go in the reverse direction and describe the people who want to liberate you. What about the people who are enslaved? So let's first start off with someone on the gentle level, Walt Whitman. Okay, and this will be a real quick quote. Walt Whitman said, "Disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves." Let me repeat that. It was real short, okay? Disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves. So disobedience is normal. Harlequin, doing what Harlequin was doing, that's the true foundation of liberty. The obedient to TikTok man, everybody else is a slave. And as you can see with the girlfriend of Harlequin, slaves self-enforce themselves. So slaves enforce their slavery. That's the trouble. So getting people to be free through disobedience is hard because the slaves themselves enforce their enslavement. Walt Whitman, disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves. If they're obeying, they're slaves. They're following the rules of the society that is designed to control them. Okay, so let's jump around and go to Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau wrote in his work Civil Disobedience a really great poet, a really great phrase, a really great passage in Civil Disobedience. Henry David Thoreau. And this helps put us not into the mind of the controllers, but into the mind of those people who want freedom. Okay, Henry David Thoreau on civil disobedience. Under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also a prison. It is there that the fugitive slave and the Mexican prisoner on parole and the Indian come to plead the wrongs of his race should find them in the prison. And on that separate page, but more free and honorable ground, where the state places those who are not with her, but against her. The only house in a slave state in which a free man can abide with honor. So that's what Henry David Thoreau said. So Henry David Thoreau is basically saying the prison, and that's where TikTok man sent Harlequin to Coventry. The prison is the only place of true honor. And that doesn't mean a physical prison. So in the case of the TikTok man being sent to Coventry, just meant a place where no one takes him seriously. But that prison can be defined in a lot of places. It doesn't have to be cement with steel bars and stuff like that. It can be a prison of discreditation, a prison of creating a public scene such that it looks like the person's a nut. A person is not to be believed. Any type of process where you try to discredit an individual makes that person go to Coventry, makes that person be shoved aside. That's what the prison is. To be not believed, to be put away. Not killed, but to be put away. Sent to Coventry. That's what the meaning of that is. Okay, so let's read this again. Again, this is Henry David Thoreau on civil disobedience. Under a government which imprisons any unjustly, and again, we're not talking necessarily about physical prisons, okay? It can be mental prisons as well, any discreditation, anything. So, under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also a prison. It is there that the fugitive slave and the Mexican prisoner on parole and the Indian come to plead the wrongs of his race should find them. On what separate page, but more free and honorable ground, where the state places those who are not with her, but against her. The only house in a slave state in which a free man can abide with honor. So, if you think of Farsight, well, you know, we are shadow banned on Google. We are shadow banned on YouTube. You can find us if you directly search for Farsight, but otherwise you can't find us. You know, if you look at the disclosure process and you look at those people who are being interviewed in major venues, the biggest podcasts and things like that, you don't find us. We'd go first in a heartbeat if we were interviewed by major media, but that doesn't happen. But you get other people going, being interviewed, who have very skimpy information, to say the least. And so that's the prison where people are discredited or people are considered to be discreditable, so that media outlets are not going to publish them. So what you're getting is you're getting the minimal level of disclosure content in a way that does not threaten the state at all. So the prison is where everybody else is talking about the real stuff is. Okay? And again, we're not talking physical prisons. Prisons can be anything. Sent to Coventry. Remember Harlequin and TikTok man. Okay, now let's go to actually, now let's go to a different person. Sir Ken Robinson. Now he was a very well-known spokesman for this type of thing. So Sir Ken Robinson, let's talk about what he wrote. Human progress has been dictated by the intelligence of the rebellious, who have chosen to break the boundaries of conformity. Without the willingness to say no to arbitrary authority, a society locks itself into a static state of intellectual decay, mistaking obedience for stability and sacrificing its evolutionary future for temporary order. Sir Ken Robinson. Let's go through that one more time because it's really powerful. Human progress has been dictated by the intelligence of the rebellious, who have chosen to break the boundaries of conformity. Without the willingness to say no to arbitrary authority, a society locks itself into a static state of intellectual decay, mistaking obedience for stability and sacrificing its evolutionary future for temporary order. Everyone get that? The state definitely wants to stay in control. That keeping even temporary order is its highest priority. Okay, now let's go to Martin Luther King. And this is a letter that he wrote from Birmingham jail. So that was a case where prison was a real physical prison. Okay? Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. So this is what he said. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. An individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust, and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice, is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law. Let me read that again because it's let me state that again because it's Martin Luther King Jr. in a letter from Birmingham jail. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. An individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law. That means that person is wanting to have laws in the society, but laws that are just. So disrespecting an unjust law or not obeying an unjust law is a way of saying, but I still like laws. I just want them to be just. So Martin Luther King was actually saying something that was respecting the potential for the state to help govern society, but to change that which is change that which is unjust so that it can become just. So he's actually saying anarchy is not the answer. The answer is not getting rid of the police. The answer is not getting rid of the government. The answer is not getting rid of the authorities. The answer is to pivot, to reorient the authorities, to reorient things that are not working so that they become working. To throw out everything is not a successful approach. You have to have something, but you can't have something new come out of something where everybody is still obeying the old the old injustice. That's what Martin Luther King is saying. It's a very deep idea. He's not arguing for anarchy. He's arguing for justice. It's a big deal. Okay, now I can't end this without going to Mahatma Gandhi, okay? So let's go to Gandhi. Now, this is something that Mahatma Gandhi said. When a law is unjust, it is not only right to disobey it, it is duty to do so. In the long run, true non-cooperation with tyranny is the only force capable of peacefully restructuring an oppressive system, because a government can only govern for as long as the masses choose to supply it with their obedience. That's powerful, folks. Let's go through that one more time. It's the obedience. This is TikTok man. Getting people to obey. That's why Harlequin was so much of a danger. TikTok man, he was so dangerous to the authorities that TikTok man couldn't even kill him. So, again, Mahatma Gandhi. When a law is unjust, it is not only right to disobey it, it is duty to do so. In the long run, true non-cooperation with tyranny is the only force capable of peacefully restructuring an oppressive system, because a government can only govern for as long as the masses choose to supply it with their obedience. That's what TikTok man wanted. He wanted the people to choose to give the government their obedience. So that's why he couldn't kill the rebel. That's why he couldn't kill Harlequin. Because that would just reinforce in everybody's mind that the government was afraid of Harlequin and that Harlequin was doing something valuable. So he had to discredit Harlequin. He sent him to Coventry. Brainwashed him. Okay. Now, there's one other piece of work that I want to talk about, and that is Neil Stephenson's 1992 cyberpunk novel, Snow Crash. As you all know, I'm a big fan of science fiction. So, Snow Crash is a really powerful book. If you haven't read it, you really should. So to connect the concepts of civil disobedience, governmental repression, and the power of divergent thought, and to connect all that to Neil Stephenson's 1992 cyberpunk novel, Snow Crash, we can look at how Neil Stephenson treats information, language, and culture as literal biological and digital viruses used for social control. So it's language and culture. They're literally biological and digital viruses used for social control. So in Snow Crash, the titular virus is unique. It is a data string. It is a data string, but it's also a street drug and a biological pathogen all at once. So people that wear the masks, the headsets, they get the virus as a data string that goes right into their eyes and into their brain and controls them that way. The street drug as a way to chemically insert the control. And the biological pathogen, which is a virus, like something like a cold, something you actually catch, that's another way to insert it. So this titular virus, which can be data, street drug, or a biological pathogen, it infects both the computer networks of the metaverse and the neurological pathways of the human brain. That ends up stripping individuals of their free will and reducing them to a state where they can only repeat unthinking, pre-programmed behaviors. That's what Neil Stephenson's stuff is all about. So here's how the philosophies of control and disobedience intersect with Stephenson's narrative. First, the virus in Neil Stephenson's narrative is the ultimate weapon, and it's the ultimate weapon of TikTok Man. Harlan Ellison's TikTok Man and Niccolo Machiavelli's Prince represent the ultimate enforcement of rigid top-down order. Now in Snow Crash, the antagonist is a guy called L. Bob Rife, R-I-F-E, L. Bob Rife. And he behaves exactly like Machiavelli's ideal ruler. He seeks to control narrative. He seeks total control of the narrative. He seeks total narrative control over the masses to keep them united, predictable, and loyal. L. Bob Rife uses the Snow Crash virus to hack the human mind's firmware by utilizing ancient Sumerian linguistic structures. And once infected, people lose their capacity for individual judgment, rational thought, or even moral distinction. They become the literal embodiment of Henry David Thoreau's warning. Men who serve the state not as conscious individuals, but as biological machines, putting themselves on a level with wood, earth, and stones. It's powerful stuff, folks. So Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash virus turns humanity into a compliant, automated workforce. The ultimate tool of systemic repression. Okay, so that's sort of the first major theme of how the moral philosophers intersect with Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. But let's go through another one. Divergent thought. What is that? That's what we do at Farsight. Okay? Divergent thought is a counter virus. So Farsight is spreading a virus in thought. It's a counter virus. So knowledge is like a virus. And once a virus has invaded a system, the system itself is in danger of collapse. That's us, folks. Now in Snow Crash, Stephenson introduces a historical counterbalance to this totalizing control. The Namshub of Enki. That's how he calls it. He's got funny names. But the Namshub of Enki. In ancient Sumer, where humanity spoke a single language, this is the Sumerian stuff, when humanity spoke a single language and was completely vulnerable to uniform mind control scripts, the figure of Enki recognized that this lack of intellectual flexibility would fatally lock humanity into permanent stagnation. And folks, if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to go see our project, our Great Mysteries project, Baal versus Yam, where we talk about this exact kind of thing. Okay, now, but again, in Snow Crash, Enki created a linguistic counter-virus, the Namshub, which scrambled human language. It broke the monoculture, and it forced the brain to think independently. Shocks you out of your hypnotic state. So this ancient act of cosmic sabotage is the literal definition of a successful act of disobedience that altered society for the better. By introducing linguistic diversity, the Namshub gave humanity the capacity for divergent thought. Gave humanity the capacity for Farsight. It ensured that people would no longer react identically to the same command, effectively shattering the centralized control structure. Okay, so now let's talk about us. You're watching Farsight stuff, so let's talk about us. What's the modern Harlequin? So let's think about the modern Harlequin as a hacker of reality. The modern Harlequin is a hacker of reality. So Farsight's mission to publish outside-the-box information mimics the control of the protagonist in Snow Crash. It mimics the control. It mimics the role, not the control. It mimics the role of the protagonist hacker called hero protagonist, one of the greatest names of a protagonist in any novel that ever came about. Hero protagonist. So Farsight's mission to publish outside the box information mimics the role of the protagonist hacker, hero protagonist, that's his name, in Snow Crash. Now hero, or hero protagonist, acts as a modern day Harlequin, with Harlequin and TikTok Man. Hero is a chaotic, decentralized force moving through a corporate-dominated wilderness, deploying information to dismantle L. Bob Rife's viral mind control monopoly. And when Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi spoke of a moral responsibility to break unjust rules, they were describing a process of cognitive non-cooperation. Now, in Stephenson's terms, the author of Snow Crash, when a free individual refuses to execute the system program of an oppressive authority, they are throwing a glitch into the code. And by actively choosing to think, to publish, and to view reality outside of the boundaries of conformity, independent movements operate exactly like Enki's counter-virus. They introduce intentional chaos into a hyper-regulated, brainwashed society, planting the seeds of an intellectual revolution that changes what people do, who they follow, and how they perceive their own sovereignty. And that, my friends, is us. Farsight. That's what we do. All right, everybody. That's what I wanted to talk with you about today. Let me see what the time is. How long have I been talking? You have to understand, I'm a professor, so I talk a long time sometimes. It's almost 9 o'clock here. Wow, looks like we went like an hour and 25 minutes. That's sort of a longer than expected. But anyway, that's what we did. Now, I hope you enjoyed the Newsphere. And again, we're going to be coming out with 2 of those a week, now that we've gotten it down to how to bake them. And I also have the we got recording to do this week as well, so that's another big thing. But you know, if we're not editing video, we're recording video or doing remote viewing sessions. So, but now that we have AI to help us, we're going to be able to catch up on everything. So stay tuned with us at Farsight. Those of you who are subscribing to farsightprime.com, you're getting the information you need in the way that we were just talking about it. All right. Anyway, I will be seeing you soon. And we've got a conversation with Harvey and ET board meetings to come out, as well as 2 new mystery projects that are in the middle right now of being edited. And 2 new spheres this week. Love you all, and see you again next week on Sunday for the next Spotlight. Okay, everybody, take care.